Hey, this is Jerry Henley, lifelong firearms enthusiast, firearms instructor, and really passionate about firearms and their place in our society. This series of videos is probably not for the people out there who are already well versed in firearms. Instead, this is for the people out there who might be at the very beginning of their journey, might not know much about firearms, or may, even if they don't have an interest, realize they want to educate themselves for the safety of themselves and those around them. So this is going to be a series of very basic firearm safety and use videos, and I hope you find it interesting. Again, if you're somebody who's a firearms enthusiast yourself, maybe these videos aren't for you, although certainly a little education never hurt anybody, but this might be for your wife or husband or brother or sister, father or daughter, anybody in your life that you might think, you know what, here's some good information. We're going to do a series of short videos. We're not going to get into these really long drawn out explanations. And with that, let's go ahead and get to the next video. All right, hey everybody, welcome back to Jerry Nine's Online Firearms Academy. This is going to be our second video. If you haven't watched the first one, these really should be watched in order. If you're starting from sort of zero or you want to give yourself a good refresher of all things firearms, either way, if you want to go back and watch the other one, if you want to jump right in with this one, all are welcome. Today, we're going to continue on basic firearms knowledge. We're going to talk about handguns. We're going to talk about pistols, revolvers. What do those terms mean? And we're also going to go over the different types of handguns. So first of all, let's get past this. Some people like to differentiate between long guns like rifles and shotguns and handguns by simply saying handgun, and that term encompasses all the different types of handguns. Other people like to think that the term handgun and the term pistol are synonymous. Other people think that all handguns are handguns and then are divided into two groups: pistols, meaning semi-automatic pistols, and we'll get into what that means in a minute, and revolvers. I personally believe that we call all handguns handguns, and the term pistol is reserved for semi-automatic handguns, and the term revolver is reserved for those handguns that are revolvers. Then we get into some things like single shot handguns and derringers, and at that point, you know, the sort of neat categories tend to break down. But I think as long as we can all agree that a handgun is a handgun, and we can just kind of go from there. So, but again, understanding that I call semi-automatic handguns pistols. And so let's go ahead and now jump into what it is that I'm even talking about. So now again, there are no absolutes when it comes to firearms design. There are some absolutes when it comes to firearm safety, but no absolutes when it comes to firearms design. And so everything that I'm about to tell you is going to be, for the most part, but there are exceptions. So please make sure that you understand exactly where you're getting into when you are handling any type of firearm. So let's go ahead and let's start with revolvers. Probably the easiest to conceptualize in terms of what's going on. Let me go ahead and grab one here. This is a revolver. As I mentioned in the text on the video, all firearms are checked before we bring them into the studio. But again, so here we are with a firearm that is not loaded currently. And we notice that in revolvers, we have this round cylinder on the in the middle of the gun. And this is the part of the firearm that holds the different cartridges and puts them into position for firing. Now again, we have an empty gun. I know that the area off to my left is secure and safe. There's nothing over there I can hurt. There's nobody else down here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that what happens is when the cartridges are held in this round cylinder, and that's the proper name for that, they are held individually in these different chambers, and these chambers hold the cartridges, and then as I squeeze the trigger, you'll notice in this case the cylinder revolves, bringing the next chamber in line with the mechanism in here that has the firing pin that makes the gun go bang. Do all revolvers have this ability? And by the way, the area off to my right is also a safe area. Do they all have the ability for the trigger to both advance that cylinder and then release the firing mechanism? No. We'll get into that maybe in another video where we talk about different action types. But for now, just know that a revolver has a cylinder. The cylinder includes chambers, and those chambers hold our cartridges while they are being held waiting to fire. Now, one of the nice things about a revolver, especially for newer shooters, is that if I actuate whatever mechanism allows me to kind of reload, that also renders the firearm safe pretty much all at once. Are there exceptions? Certainly, but again, for the most part, what happens with the revolver is that if we can go ahead and activate the latch that allows the cylinder to swing out. Now, in this case, this is a Smith & Wesson. That's the manufacturer. In this case, generally with Smith & Wessons, we push forward on this little latch and that opens up. Some other manufacturers like Colts, they generally tend to have a latch that you pull backwards. Some others like Ruger, for example, they have a button that you essentially push inward. Either way, if you get that cylinder open, then your gun is effectively unable to fire because there are no bullets, there are no cartridges, I should say, that can interact with the firing mechanism. And so we open this up, we dump those cartridges out, and we have a weapon that is clear. So this is the revolver. Now, when we talk about revolvers, again, there's that cylinder. By the way, I'd like to point out that the difference between revolve and rotate is kind of interesting. So rotate means a cylinder. By the way, my floor is safe, so I'm just going to go ahead and show you this. A rotation is when something moves on a central axis, and you can see my cylinder, in fact, is rotating along a central axis. To revolve means to have items that move around in orbit of a central axis, and we can see again that if we look at the chambers, the cartridges themselves that you would load into this gun do in fact revolve around that central axis. So I guess if we look at it from the perspective of what's going on with the main part of the firearm, it's rotating. If we look at it from the perspective of the cartridges, they're revolving. Why are revolvers called revolvers and not rotators? I don't know, maybe because it sounds cooler to say I pointed my revolver at him than I pointed my rotator at him. I don't know. But anyway, these are revolvers. They are part of the handgun family. And the next thing we're going to look at in our follow-on video are semi-automatic pistols, or pistols according to my parlance. And we're going to talk about those and a little bit about their operations and what's required to keep those safe. So, again, just to recap, the revolver has a cylinder that through some mechanism or another is allowed to rotate, therefore having the cartridges revolve around, bringing the next cartridge in line with the firing mechanism, which lets the gun go bang. Keep this in mind along with the first video where we talked about the two rules, our laser rule and our trigger finger rule, and we'll see you on the next video. This is Jerry Nines from my online Firearms Academy, thanking you for your kind attention. Thanks for watching this video of my online Firearms Academy, a series of videos designed to educate. I'm going to be linking the next video in the series here so that you can watch it. And again, thanks for your time.